I didn't want to believe it at first. The stories were just rumors, right? Industry whispers, social media threads, gossip from people who probably wanted clout. But the thing is, whispers don't last for decades unless there's something behind them. P. Diddy, or Sean Combs, wasn't just another celebrity. He was the guy. The mogul, the brand, the blueprint. If you grew up in the 90s or early 2000s, you didn't just hear his name, you felt it. Every hit song, every flashy video, every lavish party. But while we were watching the champagne flow on MTV Cribs, there were other stories bubbling underneath. People talked, quietly, about fear, about power, about things that happened behind closed doors. And back then, no one really listened. Maybe we didn't want to, or maybe we knew that speaking out against someone that big, in an industry that protects its kings, was a good way to disappear. This is the story of how a man built an empire, and how that empire may have shielded him from the consequences that others never could have avoided. And before we go deeper, let's be clear. P. Diddy has not been convicted of any crimes. These are allegations. He is innocent until proven guilty. But this isn't just about a verdict. It's about the question everyone's asking now. How did he get away with it for so long? If you dig deep enough, the first public red flag wasn't in 2023 or 2015. You have to go back, all the way to the late 90s and early 2000s. It starts with a party, actually lots of parties. Diddy was infamous for them, extravagant, exclusive, and wild. They were the kind of events where the rules didn't apply. At first, the stories felt like typical celebrity legend. Oh, you know Diddy, man throws crazy parties. But some of the people who attended, they didn't sound amused. They sounded scared. Former associates, bodyguards, and even artists under Bad Boy started dropping cryptic remarks. You'd hear words like control, manipulation, abuse. A 2001 interview here, a leaked phone call there. Nothing solid. Nothing that stuck. Then came more disturbing accusations, allegations of threats, of coercion, even of people being watched after speaking out. But there was a pattern. The stories didn't make headlines because, let's be real, who's gonna believe an ex-bodyguard over one of the richest, most powerful figures in entertainment? And that's the thing. Diddy didn't just build wealth, he built influence. He mentored rising stars. He worked with top-tier artists, moguls, politicians. If someone tried to accuse him, they'd be going up against a network, not just a man. So the rumors? They kept floating around, sometimes loud, sometimes faint, but they never disappeared. You ever wonder why no one spoke up sooner? Why someone as powerful as Diddy could be surrounded by whispers, but never dragged into the spotlight? That's not an accident. In the music industry, especially in hip-hop, there's a code, a dangerous one. You don't cross certain people. You don't speak on certain things. Because the moment you do, you risk everything. Career gone, studio doors slammed shut, blacklisted, blackballed, or worse, threatened into silence. Over the years, artists and insiders hinted that Diddy's inner circle wasn't just loyal, it was insulated. NDA settlements, friendships built on fear. Cassie's lawsuit in 2023 wasn't just shocking because of what she said. It was shocking because she actually said it. It opened a dam. Suddenly, others felt brave enough to come forward. People who had been silent for years, not because they didn't want to speak, but because they knew what could happen if they did. And still, even with the flood of allegations now, there are people defending him, people who owe him favors, people who still think speaking out is betrayal. That's how power works, not just with money, but with silence. It took over 2 decades, but the wall around Diddy finally started to crack. It began with Cassie. In 2023, she filed a bombshell lawsuit, alleging years of abuse, coercion, and manipulation. She wasn't vague. She didn't drop hints. She gave details, dates, patterns, pain. And the moment that lawsuit hit the internet, the silence shattered. Other voices followed. Some were former employees, some were friends. Some were people who had stayed quiet for years out of fear. But now it was different. We're living in a time where victims finally feel like they might be believed, where social media doesn't wait for traditional media to approve a story, and where power doesn't protect like it used to. The court of public opinion isn't always fair, but it is loud. And for the first time in decades, Diddy was on the defensive. He denied the allegations, his lawyers called them lies, but the floodgates were open. What once lived in shadows was now front-page news, and even though he's never been criminally convicted and still maintains his innocence, the world is finally watching closely. So, how did he get away with it? How does someone sit at the center of decades of rumors and never face real accountability? Until now, the answer's not simple. It wasn't just Diddy. It was the machine around him, the wealth, the lawyers, the powerful friendships. When you make people money, they protect you. When you launch careers, people stay loyal, even when they shouldn't. And when you own your own narrative, you decide what gets seen and what gets buried. Diddy didn't just dominate music. He had his hands in fashion, TV, vodka brands, political fundraisers, and media appearances. His face was everywhere. Polished, professional, safe. He controlled what the public saw. And when a scandal got close, you'd barely hear about it before it disappeared. Settlements? Not always an admission of guilt, but a powerful tool to silence stories. Lawsuits get dropped, NDAs get signed, victims walk away, paid, and invisible. Some might call it business, others might call it calculated suppression. Either way, it worked. For over 20 years, it worked. But power doesn't last forever, not in the age of the internet, not when victims start comparing notes, and the public starts asking the same question we are. Why didn't anyone stop him sooner? Maybe this isn't just about Diddy. Maybe it's about what happens when we choose not to see. When money blinds us, when fame rewrites truth. For years, people told stories, quietly, fearfully. Some weren't believed, some weren't even heard. And when someone finally shouted loud enough, the world acted surprised. But this was never a sudden collapse. It was a slow unraveling. Now, we're watching a powerful man face the weight of everything that was buried. Will justice be served? That's not for a video to decide. Diddy is still innocent until proven guilty. That's the law. That's the truth. But beyond the headlines, beyond the courtrooms, there's another question we should ask. How many others have been protected by the same silence? And if we finally hear their stories, will we have the courage to listen?